What's like a square?
The internet connection symbol is a square.
What is it when it's not connected?
Like a bunch of C's getting bigger and bigger.
C's.
Alrighty.
Like a
Backwards
wave?
C's.
Backwards C's.
I think you know what the internet symbol on your computer looks like. Don't question me right
It
now.
doesn't look like a square. I'll say that
No,
much.
or a C.
It does.
Do you mean an
when
upside
you're
down
plugged in
C?
with an Ethernet cord? Yeah, you know, I'm prepared.
You're prepared to carry this?
Yeah, I am.
Are you
I'm ready. Hello, and welcome to My Top Everything, where today I'm your host, Mara, and we'll be talking about the really exciting subject of our top 3 most memorable panic attacks, which I'm sure is the listening content you are just looking forward to hearing today.
It's the content I was looking forward to talking about today.
Yeah,
I've been looking forward to this all day.
I didn't avoid thinking about my top 3 until like 2 hours ago.
I've been thinking about it for a week. Gotta get
my
good
God.
content.
Who put this on the list? They should be punished in some way.
Probably Grayson.
Don't want to
probably.
say it was me.
-1 point.
Right off the bat.
But I feel like it is.
I think
Or
it's a good
was.
topic. They'll learn a lot about us as people.
I know, and I personally, I feel like there's a couple I just can't talk about.
Oh.
Yeah. I wonder if we'll have any crossovers.
I got 5. I have 5 on my list
Probably.
in case.
Me too.
Because one of you 3 has been there for every one of these stories.
Yeah, I also
Yeah.
have 5 on my list for that exact same reason, just in case.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm sure we will, which will be good because then we can.
Are there any
Fill in the
updates
gaps.
from... Oh, I have something interesting.
Okay, do
Um,
tell.
The episode top 3 conspiracy theories. In it, in a disclaimer, I say like take everything we say with 20,000 grains of salt. When I listened to that with Matthew, my partner, he said, "Why are you saying that? That's not what that expression, like that's wrong to say 20,000 grains of salt." What do you think? Like, where do you think the expression "take it with a grain of salt" comes from? Like, what does that mean to you, and where do you think it comes from? Yes,
All right.
Mara.
I think it's like food related in the sense of I think sand gets in to something, and it's another Marie Antoinette situation where they're like, just take it with a grain of salt. Be happy you have bread to eat. That's my guess. I don't think it's right.
I have literally I think I would have said something about food, but now that you've said that thing about Matt, I feel like it has to do with like resources or something, you know? I don't know.
Shipping.
So
Did you say shipping?
Yeah, I did. ships go abreast a
Oh,
boat.
what do you
The-
think?
about-
What do you think the grain of salt does, though? And the expression, like, what do you think the grain of salt is doing?
It's like causing
It's like
chaos.
mitigating. It's like lowering your expectations, or like it's mitigating something.
Ruining the thing that you're getting. So who
No.
wants sand?
So I said it was like reducing or like balancing out whatever you're doing. So like if you're saying something like untrue, then you're going to need more grains of salt, like an antidote, like
Sure.
an antidote, like
Oh, I don't use it like that.
for like poison.
Yeah, you
know,
don't
it's-
use it right. Just based on your explanation, I don't
That
think you
is
use
right.
it right.
Thanks.
Who doesn't use it right?
Mara's?
I don't know.
No,
Marion
Mara.
doesn't.
No,
What does
Mara
Mara
doesn't use it
do?
right. I don't
Like,
know.
it's-
She's talking about ships and sand. I just don't think she knows what it means.
It was a Michael Scott sentence situation. Thank you very much.
they believe, and by they I mean linguists believe that it comes from like something where people were saying, oh, if you want to reduce the effects of poison, like take it with a grain of salt or things like that. Matt, when he tried to call me out on this, he was like, no, the grain of salt, God, what was it? I can't even. It was like the grain of salt was equal to the weight of how you were supposed to take the thing. So like if you said 20,000 grains of salt, that would mean like, oh, it's serious. Like he was like, oh, take it with a grain of salt because that's how small it is. That's how like not important it was. So that was, yeah,
That's
was
almost like supporting your argument though.
Interpretation of that. No, he was like, don't say 20,000 grains of salt because it's not that significant. He's saying that the grain of salt signifies like, well, I'm saying signify a lot, but
but
insignificance. Like this is how
he's saying that what you were saying is insignificant.
He's saying that when somebody says take it with a grain of salt, what they're saying is like take what I'm saying with a grain of salt, because what I'm saying is about as insignificant or as like real as a grain of salt. So he was like, if you said 20,000 grains of salt, you're implying that what you have it has a lot of weight. It's like, it's significant, which is untrue. This is an untrue interpretation.
You said 20,000 grains of salt. I have zero knowledge of anybody putting a number in front of grains of salt. It's just like, it's always been take it with a grain of salt. And that's the only way I've ever heard that.
Yeah.
And Marian embellished.
Yeah. I was trying to, go further. And
where no man
not only don't take us serious, like really question us.
Yeah. And boy, howdy did he when he listened to that. He was apparently I got something wrong with the Gulf of Tonkin. He was like, you can't just say what you just said. I was like, okay. And then at one point during
20 grains of salt.
At one point during that episode, I say that Mac Miller committed suicide. Apparently,
didn't he?
It was just an overdose, and there's no like
that's suicide.
There's no evidence. Well, I don't know. I didn't look it up. According to him, there's no evidence that was intentional, but I literally didn't look it up because like the last time I thought about Mac Miller was like right after he died because of Ariana Grande, and it was like
that's who that is.
It was like still unclear whether or not it was intentional or accidental, and people were speculating that it was intentional. So I guess it wasn't. I don't know. Anyway, apparently we committed a lot of slander that episode. So that's my update.
I didn't even know who Mac Miller was until you repeated it right now. So
yeah. So just
I've used for the record, I've used numbers in front just to try to like jazz it up a little bit, give it some pizzazz. So
don't take anything we say. There's that time we got Susan Boyle incorrect. I just like we don't know what we're talking about.
We don't know what we're talking about.
And we're exposing
it's really
that.
I just say
how
it
we
with
start a lot
complete
of our
confidence.
arguments.
Yeah.
We all say everything with complete confidence. That's who we are as people.
And it's usually the things I'm saying the most confidently, I usually have the least idea about. I know the least about the things I
don't know if that's true. I think between the three of us, we have a pretty good knowledge base, which is why we call each other out, which is why arguments start. See, podcast. This is great.
Yeah. Thanks, listeners.
Thanks for listening to our misinformation. We appreciate it.
Yeah.
Please spread it.
Kara, you go first.
Oh, okay.
I don't think you've gone first in a while.
Yeah, probably not. I'm trying to decide which. So here, okay. So this was when I got introduced to like what panic attacks are, kind of. So this one was when we were all three living in St. Paul, and we were in the apartment, and I had just moved.
I didn't put this one on because I figured you would talk about it.
Yeah.
It was in August. You had been back for 2 months.
Yeah. Like 2 months.
Yeah.
So you guys have been living together for probably like 5 months at that point. I had just moved in a couple months before. And I don't remember the exact situation, but I remember, it doesn't matter. Anyway, we were sitting there and Marian started having what we now know is a panic attack. And I don't remember like what was.
I was in the kitchen. I know now that my panic attacks can be triggered by caffeine or heat. Like sometimes when I get overheated, there's more likelihood of a panic attack happening. And that was when I was very anxious. I had I had uprooted my whole life, changed a lot of things all at once. Like no more relationship, no more traveling around the world, like back in America, like just a lot of things. And so I was very anxious all the time. And I remember that I think I got like essential oils to try and help. And I had felt myself kind of freaking out, and I put the essential oils. It did not help. That's all I remember being in the kitchen being very, very hot. And then suddenly I was having a panic attack.
Was happening. Yeah. But we didn't, correct me if I'm wrong, but we didn't know quite yet that was what it was. Like we knew you were having like an issue,
yes.
but I don't think we identified panic attacks at that point.
Yeah.
So we were talking about it and like trying to figure out what to do. And I was like, you want to go on a walk? And you were like, yeah, I need to go on a walk. Like, let's go on a walk. And we walked for like 2 hours through just like the random neighborhoods of St. Paul and talked about, I remember this, why I remember it is because I remember like walking around in like the twilight and you talking about how you had remembered it happening in Australia when you were diving and you were at the Great Barrier Reef, and I hadn't heard that story. And just how you were like you were like starting to connect the dots on that walk of that feeling being like at certain points in time and those like similar physical reactions. And you were like, I think by the end of the walk, you were like, maybe this is a problem. Like maybe I should do something about this.
I think it was because like typically when I got that feeling, there was a good, it was more obvious why it was happening. Like I could understand why I got that feeling when I was going underwater in the Great Barrier Reef, you know, like, yeah. But I didn't understand like it happening just while I was like cooking in the kitchen and we were all hanging out like for no reason. I remember being like, this is an issue. Like I can't live my life like that. Or no. I had been told by a couple, therapists or not therapists. I had been told by a couple doctors that they suspected I had an anxiety disorder at the time, but I didn't believe them.
Yeah.
Which is thinking back to that time, because that would have been in what, 2017?
Yeah.
2018?
2017.
Like it's been as of last year, it's been 6 years and everything is different. We all go to therapy. Yeah. You now know you have a panic disorder and OCD. Like it's crazy the leaps and bounds that have happened in 6 years.
It really ended up explaining a lot. At the time, I wasn't really ready to, and I had just like, seen that male therapist, and he was like,
"Oh my god,"
he was like,
"The worst."
Oh, do you really think you need therapy? And I was like, I guess not. And
that was your first,
that was my first
adult therapist, right?
Interaction with a therapist, and I had spent like years, like trying to psych myself up for the idea that maybe I deserved therapy, and then like talk to him about the very first thing about how hard it was to get to that moment of being there, because I just like felt like my problems weren't big enough to like deserve therapy or anything. And then the next session with him, he's like, oh, so maybe you should take some time off and actually decide if you really need therapy. Like, I don't know. And I was like, what?
It's so confusing because like, one, you're a paying customer. Like at the end of the day, like that's like a real thing. But also if somebody has worked up so long and told you that they have worked so long to get to the point where they're like finally ready to start addressing some shit, and then the second time you see them, you just bury them and you're like, you're probably fine. Like what?
He was
did you go to therapy school? Like
he's a bad therapist. No. He was very pretty though. He was a handsome man and young.
Oh my god.
But he was a bad therapist. And I think probably part of it was that in our first session, I had a lot of death anxiety. Lot of death anxiety. At the time.
6 years changes it all, right?
Yeah, I'm totally over that.
That was before I had death anxiety.
Yeah,
thanks, guys.
You're welcome.
Anytime.
And I was talking a lot about it, and he was clearly Christian is the vibe I got, because he didn't understand. And I think honestly it was a gift that he didn't try to continue with me, because we didn't vibe, and I was not well versed enough in therapists to know that we were a really bad fit anyway. Like, but yeah, so this was right in the middle. That I remember that panic attack. It was I was very scared because I didn't really know what was going on. And the only ones, it kind of leads into my number 3 was every time in Australia, where I would smoke the green herb, and then like for 45 minutes directly after smoking, I would be like having a panic attack, but I had no idea that was going on. It always happened whenever I smoked. And so I just thought that was just part of getting high.
The feeling.
You were like, why do people do this? I remember you talking about it and being like, this is not enjoyable.
I mean, what sucks is like I would feel better after and I would enjoy it. But it was like I knew I had to get through the part where I thought I was having a heart attack and dying. And like the only thing that made it better was getting up and moving, because then I couldn't feel my heart beat as fast. Like, because that's why I wanted to go up and walk with you. It's because like well, first of all, the cool air, but then also like when I'm very aware of my heart pounding when those things happen, and it gets me all worked up. And so if you're walking, then you can't really feel, or if your heart is pounding, it makes sense. You're like moving, you're exercising.
Yeah. It's not something you're questioning. If you're like doing physical activity, you're just like, okay, this is what's supposed to happen. Stop that when I'm standing still. Just like, don't do that.
Yeah. And it's weird that my like ex never put the dots together either. He was just always like really confused why I insisted on going for a walk for an hour right after we got high. Cause like for him, he was
every time
he was like, I would really like to just sit here. And I'd be like, we have to get up and move right now, or else I'm like going to lose it. You can't be here.
Again, I think it's funny because you would have been what, 25, 24? You were younger. So 24. But also the year before, so 23, 24. It is crazy how different people think when they're 23, 24 versus like 32, 31, whatever.
Yeah, none of us are 32, so I don't know why you're saying that.
What the f-
I mean,
you're close to 30.
I'm dyslexic, 32, 23. It made sense in my head. It doesn't make sense when I say it out loud. It's fine.
I feel that.
Yeah.
My number 3 most memorable panic attack, it all goes back to my childhood.
Yes. Let's take it back.
I don't know. I'm sure I've told this story before, but I was a cute little camper at a camp, and I was out there doing camp shit. And one of them is that stupid rock wall, and like they have it so like it is like the first like 4 or 5 feet is like nothing, and so and then after like 5 feet is a total like rock wall with the like plastic handy things. And then to start, they put a ladder up, you climb the ladder, and then you go. And I got off the ladder. And I think that's about as far as I got.
Oh.
And I just like, I froze up, and I remember not moving. I don't want to use the words blacked out because I was like so clamped onto that motherfucker. But it's just a cool thing that happens to me anytime I get like 6 feet off the ground.
So that was like your first memory of a panic attack?
That's like the first one I could think of. I feel like there's other ones, but you know, trauma and forgetting.
Thank God for brains, huh?
Yeah, I
actually found it kind of hard to make some of these because there's like a couple that I've talked about a bunch, but then I'm like, there has to be other ones that I just like didn't realize were happening, or that I've just decided to forget.
Yeah, I didn't even like remember that Great Barrier Reef one until you said it like that.
Oh, that's my most potent, weirdly, because I've been with you for quite a few, but like weirdly, that's the most potent one in my brain, because I think we talked right after it and you described it in great detail. And you talked about your ears and you were sick and you weren't sure, like, well, and also I was like, oh my God, the Great Barrier Reef, like you're going to be left behind. And I got really scared for you. It's the whole thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a terrible story that you told us. Thank you.
Well, yeah, I had a dysfunctional eustachian tube, which I didn't know at the time. And you have to be able to, like, your ears have to be able to pop and level when you're scuba diving. I had gotten certified no problem, and then something happened, which makes sense. I used to have a lot of ear infections and had a lot of tubes when I was a kid. Like, my ears were not made right. Genetically, these ears should not be passed along, is what I've concluded. And I think because of all the going up and down during those 6 months, like my eustachian tube failed, got limp. It's not rigid. And so basically what was
Flaccid.
happening is it wasn't clearing when I went down. And so then I was going down for scuba and I was getting worried that I was going to pop my eardrum because like I couldn't tell
Yeah.
if my ear was clearing. And then, we would try to go down and I'd be convinced that my respirator wasn't working. And I'd be like, I can't breathe when we go down. Like anytime I would be like at eye level. And if my eyes went below the water, I'd freak out.
I feel that with the scuba diving. When you and I went to that scuba diving camp together, the pool was just fine. And then when we got to the lake, which was all muddy and not clear and just disgusting. And this
you did not like
what's
that.
the thing with the twirly thing on the back of the boat?
Motor?
No, it's like the giant
rotor.
It's not a rotor. You guys know the old timey like boats?
You mean the ones that are like a steam engine and it's got like the paddles?
No.
Yeah. It's not. It's like it's
like a fan.
Yeah.
Yeah, it looks like a fan.
Yeah, and then
it's like the whole
that
back of the
movement is
boat.
what pushes the boat. Is that like paddle gets underwater and pushes?
Like in Finding Nemo,
Yeah.
the things that people get chopped up in.
Oh, you mean the one where the fish escapes, though? That's what you're talking
The
about.
blades.
Yeah.
No.
The
Paddle
big
blade.
blades. Those big 3
It's
blades.
not a blade. No, it's not a blade. It's like an 1950s.
It's attached on both sides of the
situation.
paddle.
It's a
right?
steamboat. It's a motherfucking steamboat.
What?
Did I not say that?
You did say that,
Did you?
but what?
I don't know why she's talking
Why
about
are you
it, but I
talking
know
about
I
a
saw it when she went.
steamboat? We weren't on a
Because
steamboat.
when we went scuba diving in the lake, the steamboat had just come in, and so the fucking dust was even worse than it normally is in the lake. So the visibility was shit.
One, what
And
lake is this? Two, what dust? Like, what is
One,
happening?
Okoboji. Two, it was not. It was just not clear. It was not. It was murky.
It's a lake.
It was.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
and it
no,
was
but
worse
it
because
was.
the steamboat.
It was murkier because it's supposed to be one of the like the
Clearest
Clearwater
lakes
Lake in Iowa, basically, and it's supposed to be good for your first time scuba diving ever, I guess.
Aw.
But
Terrible.
yeah, it was pretty gross, actually. I mean, I enjoyed it. This was
and I didn't want to go down. And I remember like losing my breath, and the instructor was basically like, okay, well, I have to go down, so you're either doing this or you're staying here. And I was like, guess I'm going down.
Wow, camp was really rough for you, huh? That's both of
Sometimes.
your stories so far.
Was the first one at camp? Yeah, it was, huh? Oh my God. Kira, liven us up. What's your number 2?
This is not a liven up topic.
This is a
Um,
terrible
An uptone.
topic.
So I've only had 2. I wouldn't even call this one I'm about to say like a panic attack, but I was influenced by other people.
No, this is
in
a
their
panic attack.
attacks.
Sorry, this is a panic attack. 100%.
Just
Is this on your list?
It was, yeah, but I will keep it off. But of course, the triple Banff panic attack. Yeah.
shut up.
Yeah,
That made my list.
At what time in your life do you witness 3 people have a panic attack at once? I don't know. Like, I couldn't believe it. My eyes.
We were dropping like flies, man. It was just one after the other. Okay, so Marion does a birthday trip. Marion does a trip for her birthday every year. And we were on an international week-long trip to Banff because she's
Oh my God,
so
it was
extra.
Canada. It's hardly international.
It was international.
Got
We had to
her
bring our
ass.
passports.
Barely.
Well, then.
I don't either. I have an
listen to
enhanced
you.
license.
Oh,
I do
you
have-
didn't need a passport to get in?
You don't know.
You just
There's
need
like
your
a
real
license
ID.
you can get. It's an enhanced ID, and I can get into Mexico and Canada with it. Sorry, we were in Banff.
Okay, so we're all in Banff, and it's
International.
us 3 and Savina, and we went on a hike, and it's not that like so on the first day we went on this hike where we went. God, now that I'm doing regular hikes, I think we probably did like 3,000 foot gain. Like there was
It was very
scree.
intense.
It would have been like probably 10 miles or something. It was a pretty intense hike the first day.
It was
and
a
we almost got
12-mile
lost. We thought
hike.
we were 12-mile hike.
What?
We thought we were going to die. We were preparing the situation in our own. We didn't tell each other on the first hike. We were all each preparing our own scenario for if we couldn't find the way out.
Okay,
we're
but
on the backside of the mountain.
That's post panic attack. That's not even.
Yeah.
No, that's before it. No. Because this is
it was
no.
Yes,
Kara,
that was the first day.
Kara, no. The panic attacks were on the very first hike, and yes, Kara, yes.
They were, because by the time we had summited that motherfucker, I had like given up all hope.
Because what happened?
I thought we were going to be on that for the night.
Our luggage got lost as we went to Banff.
Yeah. Let's back it up.
Our luggage got lost.
United.
I was just trying to get to the panic attack.
We spent the morning trying to buy stuff in that little town in Banff. Like coats, everything that was lost.
Sleeping bags. Yeah.
And
Sleeping
while
bag.
we were at the shop,
tent.
It was like literally like 12:30, 1 p.m. The day was basically shot because of it.
Yeah.
And the hike we were going to do, we couldn't do anymore. And we struck up a conversation with the shop owner. He showed us
who was really into essential oils and how good they are for strep throat. And like you guys, mostly Kara, got tied into this conversation with this man for like most of the time I was shopping for a coat, which thank you.
I love people that are excited about things. I just want to listen. Anyway, anywho.
So he showed us on a map and he's like, oh, here's a hike you could do today. And it's like not that long, couple hours.
Yeah, he asked us, he's like, what's your experience with hiking? And then he looked us up and down and we were like, we're pretty experienced, like whatever, which I believe is true.
Yeah.
And then he's like, okay, well, here's this hike. You're going to go up this and down this and it'll take you, and I quote, he said 4 hours.
Yeah, so I think we started this hike around 1:30 or 2. This is what I remember. And the first part of the hike is just the idea is you go straight up the mountain and then you cross over the top of the mountain and then you go down and around through the woods. And that part's very like easy, but long. But the first part is very intense and like very like just kind of straight up. And we kept asking people like, how far are we? You remember there was that one girl that was like, you're almost
liars. A bunch of lying
like 30 minutes
is what
in.
I found.
Like 30 minutes in, we were like, how far? And she's like, oh, you're almost there.
Lies.
Girl, it was like, it ended up being like a 7-hour, 8-hour hike, right?
No, we got 12, done at 40? Like 11 p.m. Luckily it was Banff in the summertime, so it was still light out, but it was like literally, do you remember we got to a place to eat at like 11:30. We had to find a bar that was open and have those nasty burgers.
I was so crabby and like the place almost wasn't open and I was like, I'm not cooking dinner. I'll just go to bed and wake up even more hangry.
Yeah, we were all breaking down in the parking lot about anyway, so we're not even there. We're walking the mountain and we get off the trail a little bit somehow and there's like this ledge. Do you remember the ledge? And we had to kind of hop.
Where you had to hug the rock.
Yeah, we had to like hop to another part and I feel like Sabina was leading it or something, but Sabina was also freaking out. She was like shaking at this point. This is when I first discovered, Sabina doesn't like heights, which I feel like I did not know up until this moment. So we cross that little difficult part. Then we realize this is not a trail at all. There's nowhere to go. Then we had to go back, hug the rock again, jump over. So at this point, terrifying. I think this is the first time that Sabina cries is after that.
Correct.
Yeah.
First cry of the hike.
Yeah. And, we kind of calm her down and then we keep going up.
Oh, yeah. Okay, I'm with you.
Yeah.
And we keep going up and there's more and more. And then like Mara's getting freaked out too. And then do you remember any details?
Here's what I remember. I remember that basically the way that the trail was is you had to go kind of not scramble, but like either kind of boulders. And so you had to go up on top of a very large, huge rock, but via boulders. And then you walked across this big boulder and then you had to kind of go straight down on the other side of the rock. And there were trees and stuff. So you kind of had handholds and like, it wasn't scary. Now that I'm looking back.
There was a switchback. It was a switchback. It was a little switchback down that big rock. I remember it clearly.
It was like on the rock face though. It was the switchback.
Oh,
there was vegetation and everything. This is all
Yeah.
This
is why it's crazy.
This was one of the least scary parts of the hike, in my just unbiased opinion. Not scary.
Kara, Savina, and I are all freaking out. Savina is leading the way. Kara's in the middle. I'm behind them. We're all going down on our butts.
And Marion and I,
they're like literally crawling on all fours.
For the record,
backwards.
We had kind of paired off with each of you. Like,
Not
I was
yet.
like, I'll take Savina.
No, you hadn't paired off yet. It was after this.
You are no, we aren't even there yet.
This.
Yeah, the four of us are there.
I'm so glad this is my number 2.
Yeah,
you're getting
and
it
we're all
wrong.
going down this, and we're all crying. And Marion is like, in disbelief. I remember you just saying out loud, like, is this happening
I took
right now?
one picture
What am I watching?
because everyone's like doing literally like Savina's sobbing and she goes 3 points of contact and she's like holding onto a trunk. She's like got her other hand on the ground. She's like scooting. All of you are scooting. I like walked down. I like literally just walked down the switchback. Like, what is this?
I remember
it was barely a
like,
switchback.
I remember it was like Savina started panic attacking and then Mara started panic attacking and then I was watching them freak out and I was like, maybe I should be panic attacking. And it was like my body was just like, you're done. This is it.
You and Savina made me freak out.
No. No.
Yes.
Because I remember being the third and Marion, that's when Marion was like, what the is happening?
Yeah, because I just couldn't
Like,
believe
what's going
that
on?
Kara, like, because
I have
Mara kind of
receipts.
made sense. Like, there had been
Yeah.
past like height issues or whatever. Savina was a surprise to me, but like I had seen earlier in the hike, so I knew she was freaked out. But then when you started also freaking out, I was like, what's going on? And then you finished that part and you immediately went like 10 feet away from it and you just
squatted.
Yeah, you like
I squatted and found 2 very cold rocks and squeezed them very hard. That was my tactic. I was like, I'm gonna literally ground myself. I was like grounding, touch the ground, touch
you
the
were
ground,
like crying.
be the ground.
It's like I was like, what is happening
Yeah,
here?
I cried. Yeah, I did cry. You're right. That was a straight up panic attack. You're right.
And you were like, I don't want to talk about it. I just like
Kara, I found the picture. It's Savina, you, and then me.
Damn, you
I
gotta
was
send
not in the
that. I
middle.
don't remember.
Receipts.
Yeah, I remember, but I thought
we got to post that picture on the Instagram.
Damn it. I remember being the third. I thought, at least in my failed memory, I thought I was the last one to get panicked. But regardless,
Maybe
that was
you were, but you were in the middle.
in the middle. Maybe that's why your energies were just like attacking me from both sides. And I couldn't take it anymore. I was like, fine, I guess I'll do it too.
Yeah.
And then you had, and then
it was the
both of
thing.
them kind of recovered, and then you were like,
It took me a while. I was fine later because we hadn't reached the scree yet, and that was when I was with Savina, and she was just like still. I mean, I think for 8 hours she had a panic attack pretty much like that whole hike.
yeah, because she was already high emotions, like boiling on edge, and then the scree happened, and you guys kind of zoomed ahead, and probably to get
then
it over
this was
with.
when we broke off.
Yeah, exactly.
And then Mara and I, took our time through it.
But then had a nice freak out about how we were probably moving too slow. And that's, the start of...
Yeah, because the sun's starting to set now.
Yeah.
And the light's going low. And there's only, do you remember, Mara? There were those people, it was like 2 guys and a girl behind us. And they were going, and we were kind of leapfrogging for a bit. And then they got slower than us. And that was the only thing that was keeping us going, was like, there's someone behind us. We're not, because we had seen so many people leave. And we were like, if we had known, a lot of people started the hike the other way around, I think, where they start on the flat part through the forest.
That would have been way better.
And then, slowly.
But then there's that part with all the like loose rocks. And I don't think I would have been able to like
climb up.
Because at that point you would have been like
gravel.
2/3 of the way through.
Yeah.
But luckily that was on the beginning edge of what we thought was the end, but the very beginning of our trip. So
yeah, so we finally get up to the top. Finally, it's been hours now. We know we're like completely like we've missed it's like past the 4-hour mark that guy promised us, and we know that we're just at the top. And when
and I remember having service at the top and being so freaked out. I don't remember who I sent a message to, but I was like, "Hey, this is where we are. If you don't hear from me, by tomorrow morning. Please start the search here.
Yeah, and we were like,
So,
there's some snow,
running, no water,
nothing. We were so unprepared because we just had no idea what this guy had gotten us into. And then we're like looking over. I remember being at the top and looking over, and it's literally just like this big valley below us and mountains on either side. And you can just see like the sun like fading
and
on
there's a
one
rainbow.
side.
Oh, you're on the other side. But yeah. And it wasn't clear where to go.
No.
There was no,
we
it
could
was
not
on the
see the
backside of the
path.
mountain. No.
Yeah.
It was.
I have this picture and it's like super zoomed out and the path is in the picture. And then if you zoom in like 4 times, then you can finally see the fucker. And it was.
Yeah. It was bad.
No?
So we start going down, and I know we learned later that we were all thinking this, but I was literally like, where are we gonna like take up shelter for the night? Like I was really not sure.
Yes.
It's like I've only had 2 hikes where I was like, I'm not sure I'm gonna make this before nightfall. And that was one where I was like, it might, like, I was like, will we be warm enough? Like, it's going to get cold.
No.
I ran out of water in the first like hour because I thought it was a 4-hour hike, and my pack had brought a Camelback and 1 water bottle. My Camelback broke and leaked everywhere. And then I only had my water bottle, which I drank within the first hour. And so the whole rest of the hike, and I'm considering sleeping there that night. And I'm like, I still don't even have water. Like, what the
I'm like, there are bears here. Like, what are we going to do?
We don't have matches.
Yeah. I mean, it was a mess. And so then we got through.
I'm really glad that none of us voiced any of that.
Yeah, said anything. I think we were all like eyeing each other like, none of you guys can handle it. Turned out we couldn't. None of us could.
It's like there's been enough panic attacks. Can't be over here talking about like, what are we going to do if we don't make it out? And but there were those people behind us. So that was...
And I never saw them get out.
And no, but we did, I think, when we reached the forest, because we had kept, seeing around the bends, we would check back and they were still there.
I think we were yelling at them. We were like communicating.
Yeah, because there was a part where after you went down the initial mountain, it's just like boulders, gravel, like a rock field, and you don't know where to go.
It's very unclear. There's no like stains or sticks or anything.
People had put cairns up, like those rock piles, and we were like literally searching for the rock piles, trying to figure out like how to go. And then I remember when we got out of that, then we saw the path. And we saw the path leading to the forest, and we were like, hallelujah. It still ended up being like 2 or 3 hours after that, because that's turns out that was most of the miles of the hike. It was like 8 miles of the hike.
Which thankfully it was super, like, it was free going. It was good. Yeah. It was a nice little hike.
And it was starting to get dark when we were in the forest. I remember it was like getting dark in the forest. But at that point, it was like, it was just like, how long is this forest going to last? Like, we can outlast the path on the forest. Yeah. That was a crazy one. Yeah. I had that as my number 1. I can't believe that was your number 2.
That's because before we and I still don't, it emotionally didn't hit as hard as the only other one I've had. So that's my number 1, which you'll hear about soon.
Okay.
But now that I have many, so I have honorable mentions later.
I would say probably my number 2 is our friend group decided to get tattoos, and I was kind of like the main
instigator,
provocateur of this.
Yes.
I got I figured out the design. I figured out like the last minute tattoo artist who had a cancellation, who could take us. Like, I told Amanda she could not bring her boyfriend, even though it's her birthday weekend.
Great call.
Fuck you, Brian.
And
I hope you hear this.
And we got bagels beforehand, and it was like, 30, 40 minutes before the appointment. And we had been talking about how we were going to make Amanda go first, because Amanda's like the biggest wimp out of our group. And so we were like, she has to go first, because if she sees anyone else go, she's going to wimp out. She's not going to do it. Like, we had to make her go first, because like she's going to back out. And as we were leaving with our bagels and it became real what we were doing, I remember like, or maybe people were still checking out. Not everyone was done, but like my body began to freak out about the fact that we were about to do this very new, scary thing. Carrie, you were actually there. I was like, can you come walk with me?
Yeah.
Because I was like, I'm like freaking out.
At that point, I was seasoned. I was seasoned in the walking.
At that point, you've been through several of them. So it was like, oh yeah.
I had the script down.
It was like in the car, I was driving. Kara was the only one in the car with me. And I was like trying really hard not to like spiral with the panic attack. Like I had been pacing outside the bagel shop. I had been like, can we go? Like I need to go. And then got in the car and we put on Hamilton. Do you remember?
I was just about to say, I remember putting on music that was going to be like distracting.
Yeah, you're like, I'll put on some music.
I didn't remember it was Hamilton.
It was Hamilton because then I was like, oh, I'll just sing along. Like, and it did actually do a very good job of taking me out of it. It did. But then when we got there, I was like, my panic attack had made me realize I had to be the first one to get the tattoo.
Yeah.
I was like, I cannot sit through like anyone else doing it, not even Amanda. So Amanda and I went in and I got my tattoo and she got her tattoo. And oh my God, was she a little baby about it. She got 5 dots. Ladies and gentlemen.
The size of like a pencil tip.
She intentionally wanted
circles.
them.
Literal dots.
Wanted them to look like freckles or little moles. And she got 5 dots. And this girl squeezed my hand so hard and screamed like she was giving birth to a baby. And I had sat there while this lady dragged like the pen, the needle like through my thigh, back and forth. And just a little like boop, boop, boop. It took like 30 seconds. And Amanda was like screaming and writhing the whole time. I was like, what is this?
I remember later, not even later. I remember thinking at the time, and we paid for her tattoo because it was her birthday. And I remember thinking, this is a waste of $50.
It was $75.
75, whatever it was. I was like, I can't believe we paid $5 or $20 per dot or something like that. I was like, oh my God.
Yeah, we each paid $15. This is what I remember. Each dot cost $15 and we each claimed the dot.
Yeah. It was a good one.
Yeah. So it wasn't the worst panic attack because actually it was one that we were able to kind of stop it from going full fledged. So I thought it might be kind of a good one because it was a success story where I didn't go too far.
Yeah.
Mara, what's your number 2?
I will say after I got that tattoo, I was also freaking out.
Yeah. You had post freak out.
I did have post freak out because it was my first tattoo and like, it's just a baby tattoo. It's just Cassiopeia. It's 5 dots and some lines. And I freaked out. I paid for my tattoo and then I went to a nail place and I got my nails done while I waited for the rest of you guys to be finished.
I remember that I was sitting outside because we weren't all allowed back there. We had to like take turns who got to be back there. And you came out with your tattoo. You showed it to us. Everyone was doing a like proud like show off their tattoo thing. And you sat down for like maybe 10 seconds. I remember I was sitting outside the shop waiting and you came down, you sat down and you went, I think I'm going to go get my nails done. And you bolted off. And I was like, all right.
I was like, no, I cannot believe I just did this.
Did the nails
my freak
help?
out was after.
Did it help? Did your nails
Yeah, she was much more relaxed after the nails. She just had some time to calm down. She had to
know yourself.
Had to pay $35 to feel better. But that is so funny because like the minute she started actually doing the tattoo, my body immediately was like, oh, okay. Like we know what's happening now. Yeah. It's not unexpected. Like this is fine. And I was very like euphoric after it was done. And I was like, yes. But yeah.
Mine was, did I make a mistake? Is that where I wanted it? Is that how I wanted it? This will be with me forever. And it's very visible.
Yeah.
It's fine.
Yeah, you really went from 0 to 100 on the tattoo front.
I did. I was all over the place. My number 2 panic attack is another outdoors one. You're welcome, listeners. This one time, Savina and I were on a cute little Memorial Day trip with just ourselves. And we went to Colorado and we were going to do some 14ers. And we were out there and we decided to do grays, and we got up there and we were just climbing and we were living our little best life. And I go to take a fucking selfie, as one bitch does, on top of a mountain.
Yes.
And my hair is just sticking straight up, like the ones that aren't in my ponytail. And they are just straight up.
Yeah, you have like a halo.
Yeah. But just like 8 inches of hair just standing. And it's when we realized we were hiking a little too late in the day, because I didn't realize my hair was doing that, and Savina didn't say it out loud. So then I was like, oh, look what my hair is doing. And she's like, yeah, I know. And then that's the moment I realized she was freaked out. I was like, this is
What
nice.
do you mean too late in the day?
To that, if you are hiking, the mountain areas are known to get a lot of afternoon thunderstorms. And so the electrical charge in the air gets really high in the afternoon around like 2 p.m. because it's like preparing to storm. And so since you're so high up altitude wise, you're way closer to the clouds, and you can feel that electrical activity. And since you're above the tree line, you're like the first thing in line for death during
for a bolt of lightning to hit you.
Yeah.
Yeah. I told that story the other day to my therapist, I think. Because I can't remember. Anyway, I told that story the other day to somebody and they didn't know it because we don't have thunderstorms in Washington. So nobody like pays attention to that sort of stuff because it never happened. I just thought that was really interesting.
Wild.
I know.
And then that's not where the panic attack happens. I was like, okay, let's deal with this. I was a little freaked out, but then we started like kind of running back down the mountain. We were like, okay, we have to get lower. And to get up to where we had been, we did kind of do a little lightweight bouldering. And so on the way back down, once again, I was just frozen to a rock and I like couldn't move. And then there's this like Baltic man. I don't know. He's probably not Baltic. He was wearing a sweatsuit, and like
sounds Baltic
tennis
to
shoes,
me.
and he had a fanny pack, and he's like clearly just a tourist that was like, yeah, I'll do this, and like just I'm gonna do a 14er, no big deal, and he's like passing us, and I'm like stuck, and then Savina was like walking me through. Okay, you have to let go, and you have to keep moving. Because I thought I was just gonna fall. Yeah. But where am I going with this?
Was that the panic attack?
It was all fine. Yeah, that was the panic attack. I was just stuck to a boulder. Me a boulder, and Savina's dulcet tones telling me it will be all right. Thanks, Savina. But anyway, this is why people wake up at 3 a.m. to hike really tall mountains. The other tall mountain that we hiked on that trip, we did wake up at 3 a.m. To hike.
Learned your lessons.
So, yeah. Mama didn't raise dumb bitches. Thanks.
Who knew there'd be so much like hiking talk in a podcast about panic attacks?
All of mine pretty much happen outdoors. And when I was describing this to my psychiatrist, telling her what brings them on, and she was like, oh, you're like putting yourself in these situations. It's normal for you to be having a panic attack at that point. Why do you keep doing it?
Valid question. I was actually thinking when we told the first story, I was like, wow, we really put ourselves in these really like we have toilets and running water and TV and beds, and we go out and we lay on the ground and we hike mountains out of choice and have panic attacks pretty regularly, it sounds like. So yeah,
that's just reconnecting with nature.
Yeah,
fighting your inner panic.
Myself, it's really
man versus
really good.
Man versus self.
Yeah.
Okay, let's do our sponsors real quick.
Okay.
Our number 3 sponsor this week is Grayson, our producer and sound engineer. Thanks, Gray.
Yeah. Thanks, Grayson.
Does anyone have a number 2?
What?
I mean, number 2 should be therapy, right? Like, one hundo. Just therapy in general. Everyone deserves it. Don't let the haters hate. Don't let your therapist tell you don't need therapy. You should get therapy. Yeah. Everyone should get therapy.
You should
therapy.
You should be getting therapy right now instead of listening to this. I was also going to say, yes, number 2, in hand with therapy would be sertraline,
drug
Zoloft, Lexapro,
Wellbutrin, gabapentin, clonidine, Klonopin, Xanax.
All those good drugs. Thanks for keeping me chill.
Honestly.
I'm on 3 of those right now. Not really. But I could be.
Can't you tell?
Actually, I don't know if it was Klonopin, one of the fast acting ones. When I got my LASIK, it did nothing.
Xanax.
They're like, here's some quick acting anti-anxiety drugs. So that way you don't freak out about the surgery. And it did not help. I needed like 3 of them. I should have said, I'm extra anxious. Just like down the hatch. Like,
yeah.
I'll take that bottle. Sometimes when I'm having a real anxious day and I take my second dose of my anti-anxiety, I feel like I didn't take it.
Oh, wow.
So...
And of course, our number 1 sponsor for this week is Existential Dread, Quarter Life Crisis, the mental health pandemic that's surging through the country, and probably
the only guaranteed thing is death. All of that.
Yeah.
I haven't done my taxes yet.
Is that grouped in the same?
Death and taxes. That's insane.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, let's get back to the podcast.
Okay. My number 1 was also spurred on by another one of Marion's birthday trips. This one was when we were in a canoe trip. And it wasn't on the trip. We were on the canoe trip for Marion's birthday. We did like a 3-day canoe down the Mississippi while it was flooded. It was this whole thing. And on the van ride back from that trip, it's you, Mara. Mara goes, so are you going to go to grad school or what? And I was like, yeah, I'm going to go next fall or whatever. And you're like, girl, you need to get on that. You got to do this. When are you going to start? Blah, blah, blah. And you like peppered me with questions. And I was like, oh my God. And I freaked out for like days. Like I was on edge for days. And I had just started dating.
That's actually called an anxiety attack. They're different. Anxiety attacks are the ones that last for days.
I'm getting my anxiety attack led into a panic attack.
Okay, excuse me.
Yeah, that'll happen.
Yeah. So, and it's like what I thought was the only one until this podcast recording. And so we had that conversation. I had just started officially dating Grayson like 4 weeks before ish, and about a day later, maybe 2, Mara and I were sitting, I was doing dishes and Mara was sitting in the kitchen, like eating a snack or making her charcuterie or something. And I just had a full, my body started sweating. I got wicked hot. My heart was in my throat. Like I just had the most intense, what I now know is a panic attack. And I'm just washing this dish over and over and over and over again. And I was trying to explain to Mara what was going on. And you did a really good job. You asked me like where I think it's coming from, blah, blah, blah. And I realized that the source was that I would have to stop dating Grayson because he was born and raised in Minnesota. Boy was saving for a house. I'm 25. I'm trying to get out of here, you know? And I was like, I just committed to this person and I'm going to have to leave because I'm going to go to grad school in a year and some change months. And you were like, you should just probably talk to him. That's a reasonable next step. And I was like, okay, yeah, right. Yes. And I like called him. I was like, I'm coming over. And he was like, okay. And he opens the door to his apartment and he's like, come in. What's going on? Blah, blah, blah. I was like, no, get your shoes. We're going on a walk. We got to walk. And we go to this nearby park and we were sitting on this bench being peppered by mosquitoes. Just by the end, my face was just like a mole hound. It was disgusting. And so we're just sitting there and Grayson's like, can we leave? Like the mosquitoes are so bad. I was like, no, now we sit. We walked, now we sit. And I was like, I explained the whole situation about how I'm a tumbleweed running through the desert and I'm bound to leave. And you can't keep up with such a tumbleweed. You're a rock and you stay in one place. I'm just laying it on thick. And I was like, but maybe would you consider possibly coming with me to grad school? And he was like, yeah.
No.
And that was the end of the conversation.
Sounds like it wasn't. how someone else remembers it.
Grayson.
I remember you thinking.
No,
about
I'm
this
kidding. You did a great job. Yes, you didn't have a very big ask of me because you weren't exaggerating. It wasn't, hey, we've been dating for 3 months. Will you move with me at some undetermined point in time? You literally just said, would you consider thinking about moving with me when that time comes? And I was just like, well,
to an undefined place in
this is T-ball.
In a year.
Yeah. Whack. Yes, I'll think about it.
Yeah, is that all I have to say to get out of this mosquito park? Yes.
Turns out it was.
It's like,
All those clarifiers really make it easy to commit. Great work, Kara.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's my number one.
My number one's not very funny. It's like,
We'll just do it.
I thought I was dying. That's basically it.
Everyone's been waiting for one of those.
I got high, followed the pattern, but I did it late in the night, and I went to bed, and then I woke up like a couple hours later at like 5 a.m. still very, very high, and I just wasn't expecting it. When I got up, I was kind of dizzy, and my mind immediately went to, why did you wake up? Like, why did you wake up randomly? Why are you feeling this way? Yeah. You must be dying, like, right now. And I could not like get it out of my head. I was like, I am dying. And I tried to figure it out, couldn't. And so I knocked on Rachel's door at literally 5 a.m. Rachel was my roommate at the time, and she was studying for the bar exam, which, if you know anyone who's ever studied for it, this is a 10-hour day for like 10 weeks where you study nonstop for this bar, and like you don't do anything else, and you don't have a life, and it's very high stakes, and it's very like stressful, and you try to have as regular a schedule as possible. So I was knocking on her door at 5 a.m. and like, Rachel, I think I'm dying. And she's like, what? And I'm like, I just think like I can't really breathe. My heart is like, I think I might be having a heart attack. Like, can you call the ambulance? And she's, and she's like very groggy. So she's like, you want me to call the ambulance? And so she's like, 1 second, let me get dressed. And so then I go out to the balcony, and I managed to say, like, try and take 3 breaths, like Marion, and like actually, like see if you can take 3 breaths. And so I took the 3 breaths, and they helped. And then I was like, okay, like maybe you're just having a panic attack. And you're not.
All right.
But like for me, like when it gets that bad, like my arm starts hurting, like a panic attack, my chest hurts, like everything feels very like real, to the point where like for part of my 20s, I thought maybe I should just, if I just had a heart attack, then I know what it feel like. And then I wouldn't have to go through like all this,
I remember you saying that. Yeah. You were like, I just get it over.
Just I'll take it. Yeah, like just.
When does this episode air?
In a couple of, I don't know,
probably 3 weeks.
If you too are having heart issues or think you might want to improve your heart health, consider joining my American Heart Association Heart Walk team. Email us for more information.
Are you going to give them any more? Yeah. Okay.
At mytopeverythingpodcast@gmail.com.
gmail.com.
Oh, I'm glad you said it with me. Weren't you the one saying we should stop overlapping when we talk?
Yeah, but I'm the host now, so I had to say it.
I'm the fucking host.
Well, you didn't say the email, you know?
I don't think I know the email of you.
Anyway, so Rachel,
my top everything.
Rachel came out. She was like, do you still want me to call the ambulance? I was like, no, but let's go on a walk. We did walk for literally 2.5 hours, and she had to talk the whole time. The sun rose while we were walking around our neighborhood. Yeah, I felt so bad for her. I just saw her this week, and she brought it up. She was like, oh, remember that time? I was like, boy, howdy do I. Don't I remember it? Yeah.
Oh, what a good roommate.
Yeah, it was very sweet of her.
It's the 1 week she's not our number 1 sponsor.
I know. I know. Damn. Should have made her the number 2. Yeah. But yeah, I've been very lucky that the 2 times that I've been convinced, truly convinced that I was dying, I had people who because the other time was with Savina, it was after a night of drinking, see the pattern. And I like went to the bathroom and I felt this very cold, icy tingle. Cause that's something that happens when I had the beginning of a panic attack. I had this, it feels like my blood is turning to ice. And there was this icy tingle down my head, my neck, my spine. I never felt that sensation before at all. And I immediately thought, oh my God, something's gone very horribly wrong. And went out to Savina and was like, I'm dying. Like, call the ambulance. And Savina was like, what are you talking about? Are you joking?
Yeah,
classic.
That's good.
She's like, what? I was like, I'm dying. And she's like, no, you're not.
Bro, I'm looking at you. You're fine.
She's like, I'm like, call the ambulance. She's like, I don't understand what you want me to do. I'm like,
that's such a Savina response. Direct statement. I don't know what you want from me.
like, what do you want from me right now? She's like, it's 6 a.m. I'm like, I gotta die.
Ambulances are 24/7, baby.
What's your number one, Nora?
My number one is the time that 2 Ecuadorian men stuffed me into a wetsuit. This was a day of just high intensity. We started out with some whitewater rafting. The waves were 5 feet. What is that? Class 5? Class 4? It was fucking up there. Because when we got done, they were like, we're actually not going to take people down this again until it calms down a bit.
Oh my God.
It was terrifying. And then we went ziplining, and OSHA did not exist at that place at all.
We had to walk through a llama farm after.
Yeah. They tie me up. I don't speak Spanish. Yeah. And then all of a sudden they're just lifting my legs because apparently this is a zip line where you're Supermaning it.
Oh, I've never been on one of those.
And it was over this like canyon valley. So it was like you're just staring down, like
straight
thinking
down.
Like, what if something goes wrong and I just start plummeting? Like,
yeah. How long will that fall be before I get sweet release? Like, what?
And, well, you never had a panic attack before.
Yes. And I'm a big girl. And I'm like, is this okay for my weight? Will I die? Those were thoughts I had.
That's awful.
It was fine. And then after all of that, we get on a bus again. And then we're going to go rappel down waterfalls. And I'm like, all right. I have a spa that I have to be alive for after this. Reasons
I have
to live.
to live for.
I have a massage later. Also, I had gotten my nails done, and so I'm doing all of this in acrylic nails, by the way, because I decided that was a good idea the day before.
That means nothing to me.
No, but I didn't break a nail, so this is good.
Hey,
but we get to this. Thank you. We get to this place for waterfalls, and like I said, I'm a big girl, and we get there. And earlier in the day for whitewater rafting, it was no problem. There was a wetsuit, and it was good. And then at this place, they hand me one, and I'm like, there's no way my body's going into that. And then they had somebody like switch out of their wetsuit to put me in it. And I was like, started putting this on, and I start like getting so hot and so like all of those insecurities about my own body just coming to light and being like, okay, well, I just won't do this. And like those 2 men that were helping us would not, they were like, no.
They're like, we're getting
You're doing this.
We're getting you into this suit today.
Correct. Ma'am. And I popped a Xanny. And then
hell yeah.
They put water, and then they just I got in that suit. They put me in there, and it was,
they zipped you up, they packaged you tight.
It was like, if you guys have seen The Christmas Story, the small child that she wraps up in all of the winter clothing, and he falls over and he can't get up. I am convinced that if I had fallen, I would not have been able to get up. Because then my like range of motion for my legs weren't that good. And then the hike up to, at this point I'm crying. And then we have to hike up to the first waterfall. And this guy grabs my belt and is like trying to lead me along like a dog. And then there's like this incline. There's like this 3-foot gap that you have to jump over. And it would have been fine if I had my full range of motion.
Yeah.
But you had to jump up.
Was this before or after this was the day or two after the canyoning we had done, where the rock had almost hit you, the little...
Yeah. Oh. So, yeah. I almost done that as a panic attack, but I don't think that one quite got there.
Yeah. You had too many others that topped it.
And so I am supposed to, he's like, this man is like holding on to my belt and leading me along and wanting me to walk at a faster pace than I want to be and can be in this moment. And we get to this incline and there's this like hole. So if you like, we're walking across a riverbank and we're up a bit, and then like 5 feet down or so is the river. And it's like there's just a bunch of rocks. There's a bunch of boulders and rocks, and the river is pretty low. And yeah, that was bad. But I made it over that, and I did make it to the top of that fucking waterfall, and I did rappel down it, and I don't think I'm smiling in any of the pictures. And I'm really glad I didn't do all of them, because there was one where they just drop you down 50 feet, and I'm glad I said no. I'm glad I said I rappelled down 3 waterfalls, and I've peaked. I have a massage to get to.
Yeah.
F*** off.
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah, I'm just impressed that none of us had a panic attack during this podcast. Rehashing.
Yeah.
Look at that. We're growing.
I think my last one was almost a year ago.
Hey.
At this point.
My cat.
Thank
Thanks.
you. I'm at 0.
My cat
I was joking.
just shat the litter box. So I gotta go. It smells so bad. So who's the winner?
Yeah.
Who had the worst panic attacks?
Well, I don't think I should win because I didn't remember one of my stories. So I'm gonna put myself out on this one.
I'm gonna put myself forth as the winner of this one for the following reasons.
What are they?
Number 1, I did great work easing the tension. Number 2, I got to be host. I feel like, go me, wonderful. I did great.
Wow. Yes, you did. Yes, you did.
And number 3, I was there. You know the motto, be there. I was there.
What? We were all there. You don't get that.
Do I get points for being the host every week, or like?
No.
No,
This
you
is
can
your
have
project.
a point for letting me be the host. Great
I'll
work.
agree that
wonderful.
You win, especially since you were willing to carry it this week. So congrats to our winner, Mara. This has been My Top Everything. Thank you for listening.
Thank you.
I'm Kara.
I'm Mara.
We didn't do
I'm
the thing.
Mara.
You're Mara. I'm Marion.
And if you do worry about your heart, we can go for a little happy walk together. Just send in pictures of things you find interesting.
Yeah.
And if you are in the Twin Cities area and you want to meet me at Target Field at 9 a.m. on the 20th of May, 2023, there may or may not be a heart
She'll
walk.
sign autographs.
Oh my God! Listen, I used to sign my name as an autograph, and I'd be like, "You're gonna need that one day, because I'm gonna be in the Olympics for volleyball."
Oh, when was this? What age?
Teenager.
Was this like high school? You thought you were gonna be in the Olympics?
It was a joke. Sorry.